Africa Media Live TV. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel to get updated on the trending gist, latest news all over the world. Like our page, subscribe, and share with friends. Thank you.
Inquiry, who is this man? Some even joking, saying that even his name, Olori-Omoba, attracts them. The role which friends like the Awujale and many others whom I can't mention here today have played in my life was not only God divides, it was of God's doing, but more than that, I think it helped me to proceed to the ultimate place which the good Lord prepared for me.
The story of Otunba Subomi Balogun is that of a God-fearing man who from his teenage had seen that the true value of wealth is only achieved when such is used to serve humanity, especially the less privileged and vulnerable. Otunba Subomi's early life and attitude were influenced by his closeness to his mother, Adebukola, a granddaughter of Oba Adesimbo Tunwashe I.
When I was 3 or 4, my mother started teaching me ABD and ABC. She even took a lesson teacher for me. So when at 6, my father put about 4 of us into school. I was the youngest.
Both parents of Subomi Balogun came from prominent families in Ijebu.
My mother was the only educated wife my father had. We had 2 very well-known Christian families in front of us. The Mafes or the Otunba stock. Aburo, the later we got a name, Mrs. Mafe, and also a member of the Olori-Omoba house.
After a brilliant stint at the Igbobi College, Subomi was employed briefly as a tally clerk at the USC before he got a government job at the Nigerian Railways. He later moved to the newly established Nigeria College of Arts, Science and Technology at Ibadan. Subomi had made up his mind that he would scout for any scholarship that would enable him go to Britain. He eventually left the shores of Nigeria on September 22, 1956.
And the first time that we will meet was what they called Freshers' Night. Freshers' Night was like the matriculation into the London School of Economics.
London School of Economics opened a new view of the world for Subomi as he met with many Nigerians who would be among the nation's movers and shakers in later years, including Yakubu Gowon, who became a military head of state.
He was, I understand, at the London School of Economics, studying law, and I was at Sandhurst. We stayed at the Commonwealth the students' hostel.
Towards the end of his studies at the London School of Economics, Subomi was selected for a training in the art of law drafting by the government of the Western region, thus becoming the first Nigerian to be trained as a parliamentary counsel.
Government of Olori-Omoba trained me as a legal draftsman. Then I was the first blackface to be seen in the British Parliament walking.
His return to Lagos was a short distance to the realization of his dream. After an initial maze, he was appointed Principal Counsel and Company Secretary of the newly established Nigerian Industrial Development Bank.
The relationship between my family and Otunba goes back over 40 years. My late father, Chaim Weiss, my mother Batia, and myself came to Nigeria in 1960, before independence. In the late 70s, during indigenization, my father invited Otunba to take shares in his company, ETCO, a company in the electrical and mechanical construction field, and the relationship grew even stronger.
He referred to a new challenge in a way that was almost phenomenal. He was
Otunba had been a determined and somebody with vision. And because he moved so close to God, he decided to have his own bank. And through that, he has impacted so many lives.
There was a central bank at that time that you have to have 25 million, which was a lot of money in that time. And he was one of the few that was able to get his act together, and his own bank surfaced. You know, it all went. I think he's a professional to the core.
I had a dream and a vision which I have translated into a mission. That mission was to set up an institution that will earn worldwide respect. I did it because I wanted to prove that Nigerians, given the opportunity and necessary encouragement, can attain the commanding heights in the management of a world standard financial institution. One's dream have not only been achieved, but they have been surpassed.
I first met Otunba Balogun in the early 90s when I was a member of the Guinness Treasury team in London, working with our team and a team from First City Merchant Bank, as it was then, and we created something called the Irredeemable Convertible Loan Note. That turned out to be the pillar of refinancing Guinness Nigeria.
He helped to bring home to the then expatriate controlled banks in the same line that the only way to assist in the development of industries in Nigeria is by really understanding the philosophy of Nigerians when it comes to running a business and managing it. And he was also able to encourage younger elements.
In particular, he had a huge amount of time for young people. I mean, we ourselves were only about 3 years into building our own business then, trying to walk the same path he had walked about 30 odd years before. He saw that and seemed to make it his business to see me succeed. Never quite telling me what to do, he always found a way, either with an anecdote, to steer me in the right direction.
Otunba was a great entrepreneur and a philanthropist, and he was also recognized by the Italian government and was awarded with the title of Cavaliere of the Republic of Italy. He was a great leader in his industry. He was a point of reference.
Baba, as we called him towards the end, was an astute banker, a professional to the core, a man that knows what he wants and gets it, a workaholic, and father to all of us.
He sold Fcmb to me on credit, in which I pay instrumentally, and within the first 3-4 years of working with him, I became a millionaire.
When he turned 83 in 2017, Otunba Subomi Balogun spoke of a conviction. He had a duty to devote the rest of his life to serve God, society, and do things that add value to humanity. A continuation of the ideals he had pursued in the greater part of his life.
In 1987, when I was Chairman Medical Advisory Committee of the UCH, and we were celebrating the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the University College Hospital in Ibadan. And he said to me, cousin, what shall I endow in UCH? Because I knew his passion for children, I said, the Children Emergency Center. And he said, what name do we call it? And I said, let us call that center the ancestral name of our parents. So that center now is Otunba Children Emergency Room in UCH.
In 1989, he donated the Ijebu Child Care Center to this hospital in collaboration with the state government then. And it's not just the ward, there's a pediatric house patient too attached to that ward. So it's not just at the world, there's also an outpatient care center that he donated. And since then, this has been of tremendous help.
After a long, fulfilled life, nobility, incredible business accomplishments, and charity, Otunba Subomi Balogun was called to glory on the 18th of May, 2023.
The President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Fcmb, the Ogun State Governor Prince Dapo Abiodun, and his Lagos State counterpart Babajide Sanwo-Olu on Friday, May 19th, 2023, mourned the passing away of the Olori-Omoba of Ijebu land and founder of the First City Monument Bank Group, Otunba Subomi Balogun.
Actually, the night before he made his final journey to Britain, I don't think there was anything wrong with him. He called me and he said he was traveling the following day. It sounded normal and everything. So his passing was a very great shock to me because I wasn't expecting it at all. So, but there it is.
I put myself among his friends, even though there's an age gap, because I think for us, again, we should take heart. We lost a dear friend, a cherished friend, one that we respected, but they say the Lord taketh, the Lord giveth. And so in that spirit, we can take it that, yes, the Lord took away Otunba, but he gave us Otumba's legacy.
And I wish Olori, it's a big loss, because I visited her at home and I just knew that, no, this is going to be pretty tough. But God will soothe her, God will comfort her, God will be the angel that is always guiding her, and she will be at peace.
I was with him January 3rd when we had this New Year prayer session. He demanded he would want to reach age of 100 before he dies. God has said he will go at the age of 89. And then here we are. May his soul rest in peace.
God will console Olori Abimbola. It is fresh, it was a bit sudden, but it's the good Lord that calls us when he puts us in this world. So he will call us when he thinks it is time for us to go.
He was very generous generally, he was a philanthropist generally, but he was particularly generous with the church, both in Lagos, Anglican Communion, but perhaps even more so in his native Ijebu. My prayer is that he will forever rest in the bosom of the Lord.
ọmọ bọ́rọ̀ gún làṣẹṣọ ṣíwọ́ṣíwọ́ làṣòwò bí owó bá regún làṣẹ sọ bí ààrẹ gbà wà sọ́wọ́ bí olè lárí ọmọ onílé ńlá tí ń ba olè lẹ́rù ọmọ agun ẹṣin lọ́sàn gbé ènìyàn lóru ayọ̀ bí ẹni ọba ń bọ̀ arìn gbẹ̀dẹ̀ bí ẹni ẹgbẹ́ ń dùn ẹgbẹ́ òdùn ara ló fi ń ré ọmọ òsì lóyè joyè. ó jẹ balógun tán. ó wá jẹ sẹ́ríkì ọmọ balógun dòdò ń dá wà.
Good evening, distinguished guests. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have just 5 minutes for a 4-page document. Let me first thank the family for allowing me to share a few words about a man I greatly respected and admired, an accomplished and God-fearing man, Otunba Michael Olori-Omoba Balogun. Their vision, tenacity, and leadership have left indelible marks on societies, industries, and nations. These men cut across several generations. But personally, I found inspiration in a remarkable individual closer to home, a visionary, a trailblazer, a courageous and determined entrepreneur, a professional par excellence. It was in early 1984, As a young graduate in the research department of the Central Bank of Nigeria, when I first heard of Otunba Subomi Balogun, one bright morning on my way to work, I tuned on the radio and listened to the live interview he granted. During the hour-long interview, he detailed his life journey, his struggles to invest and own a financial institution against all odds, and how he eventually succeeded. He was just 50 years old at the time and was already fully accomplished. As a trailblazer, he dared to establish a bank in an era when such endeavor was almost unthinkable. Instantly, I became fascinated by his story and his path to success. I started dreaming of someday following in his footsteps. He began as my role model, and through a twist of fate, he became my mentor, whose influence will shape the trajectory of my professional journey. In 1988, as a senior economist at the Central Bank, fate led me into his professional orbit. Having just completed an extensive program in Brazil, I began managing the debt conversion desk at the Central Bank of Nigeria. Otunba Balogun, ever the visionary entrepreneur, quickly recognized the potential value of trading in Nigerian promissory notes. The bank immediately partnered with a notable UK investment house called Morgan Grenfell & Co. He immediately sought me out and recruited me out of Central Bank. I remember the day I got my letter of appointment. The salary offered was 4 times my earning at the Central Bank. I was scared. I thought it was an error. I went back to Dr. Jonathan Long, then the managing director, to seek clarification whether there was a mistake. And he said, no, that was what they were offering me. I was grabbed with fear. I went back to my boss at the Central Bank and showed him my letter of employment. And he sat me down, cautioned me, seriously, you are playing with your life. With this kind of salary, there's something they are looking for. So I carried the letter of employment in my pocket for days, scared. But after much thought, something kept telling me that this is what you have been dreaming of. I decided to walk into the bank and accepted the job. Despite my youth and relative inexperience compared to other colleagues, Otunba gave me a chance. He believed in my potential. Just a few weeks after I resumed work, he paired me with Remi Adetayo, the man who gave the eulogy, and we shared the same office. And we're doing almost the same work. He was actually my boss in the corporate affairs department, where at the same time I was running the debt conversion desk. And so one day, he sent for me. You hardly go to the executive office unless there is a compelling reason. So I was wondering why Otunba would send for me. So I went to the executive office. I was shaking like a leaf. And I entered the all-inspiring office of Otunba. You needed to be there to see. And he looked at me. And he said, you look scruffy. But I'm going to change you. I'm moving you to my office as my executive assistant. The previous occupant of that office were the star of the bank, Femi Akinsanya, Benga Dejuigbe. So I was wondering why he chose me. And of course, I was scared. So I spoke with the personal assistant, That was Mrs. Busola Adekusibe. This was in the year 1987, and she assured me that I will be okay. Can you imagine you having an office right in front of the executive office of Otunba Subomi Balogun? One day he came to work, and I was wearing my shirt and tie without a jacket. And he yelled at me, "Why are you naked in my office?" I had to rush back home to grab my jacket. Becoming the executive assistant meant an immediate shift in my ways. I had to accompany him to most of his outside official functions, including board meetings and other sensitive appointments. I quickly realized that this could be a training ground and a stepping stone to higher responsibilities. I'm fortunate to have landed such a posting among many other young and highly talented colleagues. My transformation was swift, from my appearance to my professional demeanor. I will study Otunba's dressing, and I will go with Remi Adetayo to the back of Mandila's building, searching for a similar suit that mostly resemble I began to walk like him, to speak like him, to watch his every demeanor. Such was the great influence Otunba Subomi had on a young man like me. Working closely with this extraordinary figure, a trailblazing professional, a successful, determined, and courageous entrepreneur, significantly shaped my worldview. His mentorship and personal values catalyzed an invaluable transformation in me. After 2 years of working directly under his tutelage, it was time to realize my dream. The seeds of success he planted bloomed and inspired me to join a group of young and idealistic professionals led by Mr. Fola Adeola and Tayo Aderokun of blessed memory to seek a banking license, resulting in the formation of Guarantee Trust Bank in 1990. This was perhaps one of the most difficult decisions I ever made in my life, to exit a vibrant and very successful bank led by a visionary and inspirational personality, and to leave an auspicious position as his executive assistant to join a newly licensed and untested bank. With mixed feelings, I accepted the offer to join Guarantee Trust Bank as a senior manager and head of corporate finance. I was excited to join this new team of idealistic and visionary young professionals who were focused and determined to change the face of banking. At the same time, I was scared going into the unknown, and more importantly, how to break the news to my chairman, Otunba. I remember that Otunba did not find it funny when the last set of close associates resigned to join newly licensed banks. Otunba was very jealous and possessive employer. He never liked to lose his talents, those he had nurtured and trained to other competitors. But between 1988 and 1990, the industry was tumultuous. 25 new banks were licensed, and many needed to poach talents from successful banks like Fcmb. Around this period, the likes of Erastus Akínbọ́lá, Fẹ́mi Akínsọ́yà, Dàpọ̀ Ṣolúadé, Babájídé Rogers, Akin Fatade, and a few others, too numerous to mention, who were holding sensitive positions, exited the bank. Instinctively, I knew it would be a complicated thing to break the news to him. I was ruminating how I would go and tell him I was leaving. So I shared my worries with his personal assistant, Mrs. Adeku Sibe, and she just laughed and told me, Baba ti gbọ́ látàná. My heart sank. I decided to brave it. I entered his very posh and awe-inspiring office with fear and trepidation. Before I could utter a word, Baba said, Femi, I heard you are leaving us to join one of these new banks. I just prostrated, like Olori-Omoba without saying a word. And he surprised me. He started praying for me. And he started wishing me well in my new assignment. At Guarantee Trust Bank, one of our most strategic profit centers at that time was a unit called Financial Institutions, FI for short. The primary goal of that unit was to become the bank of first choice to merchant banks in Nigeria, and Fcmb was our first target. The moment we opened business in 1991, Mr. Fola Adeola, the MD, then wisely suggested that rather than market Fcmb, why didn't we just honor the founder and chairman CEO of the bank who blazed the trail and made possible for the new generation banks like GT Bank to exist. Led by our MD, we invited Otunba to visit and tour our facility. I can see Ganaba smiling because we were there that day together. We laid the red carpet from Adeyemo Alakija to Otunba's house, which was a stone throw. And the entire staff of Guarantee Trust Bank lined the street. And when Baba came out of the house and saw the red carpet and us, he was so happy. Let me quickly round up. I have to skip so many other things I would love to say. But let me just say that Otunba has had a great touch on my life. I'm who I am today because I started my professional journey right under his tutelage. And when I became the deputy governor of Lagos State, he was the happiest man ever. He honored me with a reception, and till the day he passed on, he always took me as one of the children. And I'm letting the children know that I am Baba's first son. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a great Nigerian has gone home. Sunre Baba, may your dead soul rest in perfect peace.
CON, the Otunba of Ijebu, the Olori-Omoba Akile Ijebu, and the Ashuaju of Ijebu Christians. He was an especial and consequential man. To liberally paraphrase a famous quotation attributed to Calpurnia, the wife of perhaps the greatest and most famous of all Roman emperors and generals at the time of his death. On the passing of most mortals, no comets are seen. However, the very heavens themselves blaze forth the death of princes. This is demonstrably the case with the sudden, very painful, and totally unexpected loss of the founder, as he'll forever be fondly remembered. He and my late brother, Gwega Jadesimi, were friends from their early youth, but I first met him when he returned from the United Kingdom as a brilliant, dashing young lawyer, having graduated from one of the most famous and prestigious schools in the world, the London School of Economics and Political Science, the LSE. He'd also been specially identified and trained as a parliamentary legal draftsman. That was the first of his firsts, because he was the first Nigerian to be so trained, and was engaged in that capacity by the Western Nigerian regional government in Ibadan, the regional capital. I was still in high school at the time, but very clearly remember being quite taken by his distinguished panache, savoir-faire, and which set him apart from all his peers, even at that time. As we heard earlier, he eventually relocated to Lagos and to a job with the Nigerian Industrial Development Bank, NIDB. He was later headhunted amidst very strong competition from hundreds of other candidates as executive director at Icon Merchant Bankers. That move presaged his predestined feat in Nigeria's financial space. What distinguishes the merely great from that rare visionary is the ability of the visionary to see and to dare to seize opportunities that others are either completely oblivious of or lack the ability or boldness to pursue. He started with City Securities Limited, CSL, as stockbrokers and issuing house. CSL was an instant success and handled some of the largest initial public offerings of the time, like Mobil Oil and Texaco marketing companies. Then, with supreme self-belief and daring, he went for a banking license. It's impossible to exaggerate how bold and audacious a move this was. Nobody else had so much as dreamt of doing the same. His dogged determination assured his successful application for a banking license. Thus was born what is now the First City Group, with First City Monument Bank PLC at the center of the banking and full range of financial services companies. It is certainly obvious to observe that to follow a successful example once set is considerably easier than to be the first to light up the trail. That is a distinguishing mark of a visionary. Of course, many who subsequently followed have done so with great distinction, particularly in the recent years. However, the accolade of being the founder is one than which there's no greater accolade. Only one person can be the first, and the founder will accordingly have for always the preeminent pride of place as the grand master and father of modern day banking in Nigeria. He was a very devout Christian who loudly proclaimed at every opportunity and in his many books and other writings how he owed all his successes, victories, and vast achievements in life entirely to the munificence, to the grace, and to the blessings from on high. He was a great and generous philanthropist whose material support for evangelism generally, and the Anglican Communion in particular, both in Lagos as well as in his native Ijebu, is legendary. He took to heart and very much cherished his role as the Asiwaju of Ijebu Christians and was undoubtedly the staunchest pillar by far of Christendom in Ijebu land. He was particularly interested in the medical care of children and established pediatric centers at the UCH, the Ijebu General Hospital, and he bequeathed the sprawling, substantial Tunwashe Specialist Referral Pediatric Center in Ijebu to the UCH. He attended his traditional royal offices both as Otunba Tunwashe and as Olori-Omoba Akile Ijebu with generosity and great acumen. However, above all, he was a family man, a loving father and grandfather who glowed when surrounded by his children and grandchildren, as seen in what turned out to be the last set of group photographs taken on his 89th birthday party on March the 9th, 2023. His immense joy and pride was to see his 4 sons achieve and fulfill their promise, becoming matured chiefs of the old block himself for decades before his sudden departure. I last spent time with him on the very day he later left for London with absolutely no hint whatsoever that it would be for the very last time. My thoughts and prayers go to all his family, especially the widow he left behind, Olori-Omoba Balogun, who was his rock, devoted companion, spouse, and life partner. May Almighty God be their comforter, one and all. He shone like the brightest of stars as he streaked his chosen path across the firmament. I'll end with another quote, this time from Julius Caesar himself, after one of his lightning victories. Otunba Tunwashe came, he saw, and he conquered. He'll forever remain fresh in our memories. May he forever rest in perfect peace.
His Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for most of us participating in these obsequies, the passing of Otunba Michael Olasubomi Balogun, CON, the Otunba Tunwashe of Ijebu, Olori-Omoba Akile Ijebu, and the Asiwaju of all Christians was sudden and unbelievable. When someone is as great and accomplished, you hold them in a certain space of immortality. And even when death comes calling at 89, you feel that life still owed them more, or that they still had more to give. What I realize is that you cannot calculate in years a life spent building new heights in banking or amassing the sort of influence and stature that Otunba Balogun had. When I missed his 89th birthday open house, I did not bat myself because I believed that I would be at the major event, which would be his 90th birthday, which was around the corner. The news is therefore hard for me to process, not because he died, but it's as if he is still here. Look around you and you would see the class and the no-holds-barred quality that he loved and which stood him out. They're still here with us. About 40 years ago, I was one of 10 lawyers that were interviewed by consultants to fill the position of company secretary legal advisor of a bank that did not exist. The final screening session of the top 3 candidates was my first encounter with the great chairman, chief executive of City Securities Limited. And I met him with their external legal advisor, Chief Badru Olaogun. The setting, of course, was intimidating. But then I was bold and confident with a strong presence that struck a chord with him that I was right for the job. But when I walked into the room, he said to me, before I could even sit down, they didn't offer me a seat. Who are you? Who is your father? That's what I mean. I said, oh, my father is PNC Moluku, MBE. I had it in my mind that maybe it would be important for me to tell him that I actually didn't come from nowhere. My father had retired as the the permanent secretary of the Federal Scholarship Board, and had been a PERMSEC in the East Central State and a director of UNESCO. I told him all of that, and he said, oh, okay. Badru, let her sit down. You know, he went on, he asked me 2 other questions, if I remember, how I would do the job and what I thought I would bring to the table. And one of my answers was that I've been in this interview with 10 or 9 others, all of them in the banking sector. I'm the only one who came from telecoms. And I had made contact, taken all their cards. So whatever I needed to do in this job, I would have a resource base from which to tap. And I think that sank well with him, because he thought, this person must be adventurous a little bit. So he sat me down, and he went on to sell the idea of First City Merchant Bank Limited to me, whose banking license was still anticipated. It was the first time I heard of vision, purpose, passion, corporate social responsibility, branding, creating value, all these things long before the best business schools started teaching them. Otunba Balogun was himself a visionary, or should I say a cause or a crusade. And he had the first indigenous investment banking bank, First City Merchant Bank Limited, all worked out in his mind. And I bought into that philosophy, joining along with a dozen other pioneer staff just before the banking license was issued. Otunba Balogun had cast Fcmb firmly in the mold of Baring Brothers & Co. and S.G. Warburg. The intensity of his desire to have that record of setting up the biggest investment bank in Nigeria had been fueled by his background in NIDB and the icon epiphany. He has told his story and how he received the banking license repeatedly in his many books. that central bank required foreign partners back in the day did not deter him. And being a man of great influence and reach, he found foreign friends that invested in FCMB when the pressure intensified. MOB, as he used to sign, made several tough calls in his life and fought many battles, not the least of which were with regulators, especially the one he called volcanic eruption in one of those books. But his life teaches one that when the battle is over, you put your sword back in its scabbard, close the armory or arsenal, and work together with even those that fought you to the ground. His passion for the good life left no time to dwell on mistakes or failures. He knew how to cut out the noise. Otunba Balogun was a great human being and a fiercely loyal friend, as gleaned from his legendary relationship with the former Vice President of Nigeria, Chief Alex Ekwueme, GCON. His friendships cut across local and international boundaries, and he was a true nationalist. I even remain eternally grateful that the bank stood still when my father died in 1987. As everyone headed for my hometown Onitsha to his funeral, at which the then Obi of Onitsha delegated his chieftains to ensure that Otunba and the FCMB entourage were treated like royalty. Otunba Balogun remains a major force impacting countless lives. We used to say behind his back, though, that FCMB was actually a university or a school of life, which prepared you for the untold. The environment was a mixture of fear, trepidation, from too much discipline, enormous attention to detail, where how you appeared or how you spoke mattered. On top of that, you could not even be late for any assignment or anything. His intolerance of mediocrity, his appreciation and insistence on extraordinary quality epitomized his culture of excellence, which stamped his character on all the institutions around him. Little did we realize how fundamental to success these attributes were. Initially, as you have heard from somebody before me, or those before me, Otunba Balogun was livid that staff were regularly poached from FCMB, having always selected top echelon people and invested heavily in their tutelage. FCMB was a training ground for the banking sector, and Otunba eventually became proud that the institution, FCMB, became the soul of the industry. Because in every bank and every finance company, where many of them made chief executive, he was, through them, propagating the culture of excellence. Just one page. Today, the FCMB group alumni that actively worked for the success of this night of tributes to honor our boss and leader and mentor are proud to have passed through those portals. Please permit me to respectfully request all those who were at any time staff of any of the FCMB group or associated companies to please quickly stand up wherever they are, even if it is online, in acknowledgement of our dearly beloved and treasured leader. Yeah. Thank you all very much for the solidarity the show of love for the family, and the continued efforts at preserving this legacy. What really endures about Otunba Balogun is that thousands of people benefited directly from his pioneering and entrepreneurial spirit. Millions more worldwide benefited indirectly from his businesses or were influenced by the sheer power of his personality and sense of purpose, his commitment to achievement and excellence, not to talk of his love of life, his opulence or flamboyance and good humor. His regal style of flowing white robes, long chains, and his signature long wheelbase automobiles were the talk and envy of town. Finally, Otunba Balogun already accomplished his legacy by preparing for this day when we all sit around reminiscing his life and times. He ensured that in his remarkable lifetime, his children, Bolaji, Jide, Ladi, and Boyega, their wives and the grandchildren, were schooled in strong faith, an acknowledgement of the Almighty God, a good education, a strong culture of work, a high sense of family and achievement. They only need to be there for each other. And in fact, maybe also become vocal voices that would join causes that would strengthen the capital market and the banking sector. His beloved wife, Olori-Abimbola Adetutu Balogun, and his loving sister, Chief Ronke Atere, his many siblings and their families whom he cherished, as well as his many friends, will miss this huge presence. May God comfort us all. Adieu, Grandmaster. Farewell, visionary, man of great faith, man of faith. Farewell, fierce warrior. Thank you very much.
Olori Abimbola Balogun, Bolaji Balogun, and the rest of the gang. I come here in a couple of capacities in relation to your husband and to your father. But I'm aware of the 5 minutes limitation. I'll try to comply. But let me first of all start where I was inspired to start. And it's by going deeper into my culture. Please bear with me. Awanwa, awo, awoti dorisha. In commemoration of the remarkable life and contributions of Chief Otunba Michael Olasubumi, Olaonipekun, Olaosewogwe. This tribute serves as a testament to his legacy as a visionary business leader and dedicated philanthropist. Through his entrepreneurial spirit, strategic acumen, and unwavering commitment to societal development, Otunba Balogun shaped industries and transformed men. Today, we honor his exceptional achievements and remember his indelible mark he left on the hearts and society. His early life was to follow the footsteps of his father. They called him an entrepreneur. In Ijebu, okay, he was. But he then took it out of Ijebu, found his course, and he became unstoppable. He was a champion for education. Recognizing the transformative power of education, Otunba Balogun prioritized investing in human capital development. He established the Subomi Balogun Foundation, which implemented various initiatives to enhance access to quality education across the country, from scholarships to educational infrastructure projects. These efforts enabled countless aspiring young minds to pursue their dreams and contribute to national projects. He was a philanthropist and a social welfare personality. His philanthropic endeavors extended beyond education, encompassing healthcare, as we've heard, poverty alleviation, and social welfare. Through his foundation, he spearheaded impactful initiatives that aim to improve healthcare facilities, provide essential amenities to underserved communities, empower vulnerable groups, and support sustainable development projects in the country. His remarkable compassion and dedication to uplifting society touched many lives and created lasting change. A legacy of leadership and inspiration. Otunba's exemplary leadership style, characterized by integrity, vision, and inclusivity, served as an inspiration to entrepreneurs and professionals across the country. He believed that success should be shared, and he embodied this through his commitment to mentorship and nurturing talent, his exceptional work ethic. We saw him go to work every morning, driving from Sanusi Fafunwa through Adeyemo Alakija, and we saw him return to Sanusi Fafunwa in the evening, every single day, unless he was not in the country. Let me talk a bit about the clubman. Until his death, Otunba Balogun was a member of the Metropolitan Club. Unlike Benny, I won't ask Metropolitan Club members to stand up. He was a tableware member until he died. A consummate clubman. He was a regular at our every Tuesday lunches. If he was alive and he was in the country, he would be there today. So many people in the club were there on that Tuesday when Otunba Balogun said, "I'm traveling tomorrow and I will see you when I come back." That was the last we saw of him. They called him Grandmaster here. I think that was the move that he played the best. We didn't visit him in any hospital. We didn't partake in carrying him up and down. He just sneaked out. And he didn't come back. Some of us are still waiting for that return. Until he first said to us, "Awoti Dorisha, Awa Ori." He will come in his choice cars, typically a Rolls Royce. I visited him once and I counted 7. And I asked him, 7? He said, no, there were 13, 8 surviving. That was the first time in my life that I associated the word survival with a car. I don't know how many are surviving still. Who knew him and didn't know about Ovington Gardens? Then they didn't know him. The Yorubas told a lot of stories, but they had only one character most of the time. The character had a name, had an oriki, and had a wife. Ìjàpá tìrókò ọkọ Yáníbo. For as long as you are patient, Otunba Balogun told stories, and he had only one character as well. Can you guess who the character was? Otunba Olori-Omoba Balogun. For as long as you are patient to accept that character, he will tell you stories. He never envied anybody. For as long as you accept that your beautiful house is a replica of his own house, which he built many years ago. Once that is the condition, you are free to go. When he turned 70, the guy who sold him the Rolls Royce came with the Rolls Royce to Ijebu, and I think it was a mistaken identity. I think he was looking for Aiboje, but he found me and introduced me to the Rolls Royce. I said, if I carry this home, where will I say it came from? Said Aburo. The title of this is, by the way, Egbon Aburo. He called all of us Aburo, and none of us dared call him Egbon. So now that he's gone, I have to say to him, he had many Aburos indeed. He was the Egbon Aburo. I've told you about his storytelling, one character, Otunba Balogun. We will miss him at the club. We're missing him already. From so many perspectives. From his presence. Madam, nobody takes this thing from me. I'll soon finish. From his financial standing. He was no one you call 3 times or 4 times. He was no one you call to remind of what his obligation was. He was not. There are many people will call. No. You didn't. Once that is the obligation that is set for him, you got cleared and you went your way. He was totally devoted to his family, especially Olori-Abimbola, who didn't know her name. To Bolaji, to Jide, to Ladi, to Boega, and of course his sister, who was as a twin. You couldn't claim to know him if you didn't know Mrs. Atere. You couldn't. You didn't know him. They laugh the same way. They talk the same way. If you offend one, you have offended the other. I mean, it's such a deal. Moki Boboin, Ekwa Sheinde, Ekwa Raferaku, Eku Dele Baba. Please, allow me to once again consult the talking drummer who beats his drum for me. And I want you to hear what he said. Olówó ń kú, tálíkà ń kú, ọmọ kékeré ń kú, àgbàlagbà ń kú, ikú, ikú, àlìmútù, àlìmútù. Ṣégbà ló yàtọ̀, gbogbo wa là ń lọ. Ṣégbà ló yàtọ̀, gbogbo wa là ń lọ. My singular prayer for all of us, very simple. Kí ọjọ́ kó jìnnà síra o. Farewell, Balogun.
We have a video documentary to show to you, and a few people will talk about Otunba. But I just want to add very quickly that we all that grew under Otunba, under his wings, realized that his name opened doors all the time for us. But there was one day, on one occasion, that Otunba's name did not open doors for me. When the new banks came, I looked at the trajectory of my career, and I realized it would be very difficult to become an executive director in Fcmb, because I didn't see anybody who was going to leave in a hurry. So there were new banks coming out. And I just try your luck now. Send out your CV. I sent my CV out to a few of the banks. There were a few of us who were heads of corporate affairs at that time. And I sent my CV, and the headhunters, the HR companies, few of them at that time, called me for interviews. The interviews were done, and 5 of them came back to me that I did very well, and that they wanted me to meet the management. And I looked at it, all right, I could negotiate. Because when I started work with Otunba, I didn't know how to negotiate. I wrote my application letter with Mrs. Adekusibe in his office. He gave me what he offered me. I was a civil servant, so you can imagine how much he offered me. Anyway, the chief executives of the 5 banks, I went to see them without Ms. Moloku knowing, because she was my direct boss. And I met the chief executives, and each one of them, Remy, you did well. We want you, but you know what? We can't take you. You can't take me how? Said, we cannot incur the wrath of Otunba Balogun. That's the story of my life, and that's when, and then I decided, the father that I lost at 15, this is the father that I got, and 40 years on, I still remain member of the Balogun family. Never mind Femi Pedro saying that he's number 1. Bolaji, even Bolaji and Jide and Ladi and Boyega and their wives, they know I'm number 1.
Africa Media Live TV. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel to get updated on the trending gist, latest news all over the world. Like our page, subscribe, and share with friends. Thank you.